Hey everyone, so today's video is about how to do last minute exam preparation. And why am I making this video is because I want to tell you that I have recently got the results for my exam that I told you about in my PhD vlog number 7. So if you haven't seen that vlog, just have a look at it. In that, I have described a little bit about the mind map that I use and also some sub points that I use to prepare for my exam. So although I'm not a big fan or supporter of last minute examination preparations because I'm somebody who always prepares for exams well before, but when it comes to your PhD, things are different. And although I used to think that, even during my PhD, I will try to score really well in my exams, and in this case, it is still pretty good because 85% is still not that bad. But I have been scoring pretty well in my bachelor's and master's and also my school. So I wasn't that satisfied with my scores, but provided that I just had 2.5 days to prepare for this exam, I'm so happy. And during that month, I was super stressed because I also had my committee meeting just a day later, and that's a big deal, and had to prepare for that, and also was taking part in one of the course by Oxford University. So there was a lot going on, and sometimes you just have to crunch everything within the same month. So that often happens, and this is something that my PhD is teaching me. So let's get back to what was the exam portion like. And if you have a similar sort of, or let's say if you have these many chapters, then how do you break it down and how do you do last minute exam study? So for me, luckily the exam was on Monday and it was in the afternoon, so I had almost complete 3 days to prepare for it. So Friday evening and Saturday, Sunday, which is usually a holiday for us. So weekend, which is not meant to be studying, but I had to use this weekend to study, and I'm sure most of the PhD students did that. And the exam was at 2 o'clock on 7th September, so we just had good enough of time on Monday morning to revise stuff. So how I planned my preparation was that we had six lectures from cognitive neuroscience, and we had seven of those lectures from clinical neuroscience. And the chapters from cognitive neuroscience included methods, perception, attention, decision making, emotion, memory, and body perception. And the chapters from clinical neuroscience had several subdivisions, but just to give you a brief description, we have subjects like addiction, neurosurgery, schizophrenia, depression, epilepsy, spinal cord injury. There were a lot of subjects from neurology, so like multiple sclerosis, epileptology, neuropsychology, stroke, neuroophthalmology, neurootology, and movement disorders. So how did I break it down and completed this portion in 2.5 days? So to be honest, I actually took all the food items, whatever would motivate me. First of all, that is my exam prep. Tip one is that you make sure that you have all the sources to energize you, to motivate you. Point number two is that limit all the distractions. So during that weekend, I didn't call my parents, and I was just studying. So day and night. But at the same time, I made sure that I had sleep of at least 6 to 7 hours, which is kind of very much needed. Otherwise, your brain cannot process stuff and it cannot retain stuff. So I have told you that I had only 2.5 days, right? So I sort of first of all spoke to certain seniors and wanted to know about their opinion of how the exam would be, and then we got to know that it is a subjective exam. And for the clinical neuroscience, we did have a question from epilepsy that I remember, which was for 15 marks, but we also had multiple choice questions. So, and maximum of it came from cognitive neuroscience. So this is tip number 3. So tip number 1, I told you about the food items and stuff, so this is nothing scientific. Tip number 2 is about limiting distractions. Tip number 3 is that you mainly know the exam pattern and also what is required of you. So this is also very much targeting in terms of how you want to score, and learning is involved, but if you really want to get into the topic, 2.5 days are not sufficient. So I have to admit here is that there were some subjects that I mean, not subjects, but I would rather say some chapters that I read before, but it was long ago because our lectures started in February mid of this year and they ended by May end. So it was a long time, right? And the exam happened in September. So you could imagine that the whole semester we had to attend lectures once in a week for 2 hours. And what I would suggest as tip number three is that choose and know your exam pattern and what is required of you. And then, depending on the amount of time that you have, allocate time. So, like, let's say if I want to cover one chapter, I would dedicate only 3 hours and limit yourself to that. So, you stick to that and then take good breaks. That's tip number four. And also, when you study this particular thing, what I usually do is that I record the lectures. So if I don't feel the motivation of reading stuff by myself, I just play the recording and I listen to it. But it also depends on how do you learn stuff. For me, listening to stuff really helps. Also, at the same time, drawing and writing. So I just played recordings sometimes, and the best thing that helps me a lot is that I create these mind maps about which I have told you in my PhD vlog 7. And so mainly you create these mind maps and do it on a whiteboard. It really, really helps. So I just read the whole chapter and then I go to the whiteboard, close my notebook, make all the subpoints, and then I take a picture of that. And then whenever I'm traveling or, even if I'm reaching home and I'm cooking, then I just go through those mind maps. And the more number of times you repeat or look at those mind maps, then you will realize that you're trying to only remember those main concepts. Because a lot of times during exam preparation, especially if those are last minute exam preparations, we just bombard our brains with a lot of information, and that's not right. We need to bombard our brain with the right amount of information so that it can remember the stuff that is required for it to remember. So that's quite about it. If you have any questions about mind mapping, and if you have any questions how to take a particular chapter and how to break it down, how to memorize stuff, how to remember stuff, feel free to ask those questions in the comment section below. I'll let you know. And if you want to talk about productivity, if you want to talk about how to study efficiently, if you have any questions on any of those things, feel free to ping me. So you just have to write down in the comment section below and I'll let you know how to go about it. So that's quite about it. And thanks for sticking around. I'm so glad we have 460 followers now. It's quite interesting and amazing that you guys are liking my videos. And to tell you that I'm not spending too much time on these videos, so I'm always looking forward to your comments, and it is really good to get some nice feedback. Yeah, that's quite about it. I'll see you guys in another video. Goodbye.